The Warriors' preseason is far from smooth, and as time passes, the uncertainty surrounding Jonathan Kuminga's future continues to loom over San Francisco like a dark cloud. It's as if the rest of the roster construction is waiting on this first move. Every decision, every rumored name seems to orbit around what will be done with Kuminga. Will he remain on the team? Will he be part of a trade? The situation shifts with every new piece of information. And now, we have one of the most relevant updates since the beginning of the offseason. We're not talking about empty speculation. Sources close to the Warriors' front office indicate that the Sacramento Kings, previously not even seen as a favorite, might now be leading the race for Kuminga. At first, the idea of seeing him in a purple uniform seemed unlikely. But as days go by, the Kings are becoming a concrete option, surpassing competitors like the Heat and Bulls. According to journalist Sam Amick, key figures in Sacramento's front office have been seriously discussing a move involving Kuminga. And there's more. According to Mark Stein, Sacramento is looking to include Malik Monk in the negotiation. The offer hasn't been made official yet, but the Kings' willingness to package Monk speaks volumes. The intention seems clear, to turn Kuminga into a piece for the present, not the future of the Warriors. And let's be honest, if the deal revolves around Monk, Golden State might even be getting the better end. Malik Monk is a player who has shown steady improvement. Last season, he averaged 17 points per game and was a key contributor during the Kings' late playoff push. He even filled in as point guard when De'Aaron Fox was out, proving his ball handling and playmaking abilities. He's a guy who can shoot in high volume, create plays, and carry the offense during critical moments, something the Warriors sorely missed in the last playoffs. On the other hand, Kuminga is still a promise. He has the athleticism, he has the explosiveness, but he hasn't taken off the way the team hoped. He doesn't shoot much from three, struggles with decision-making, and isn't reliable as a passer. Offensively, he's limited. Sure, he has room to grow, but fitting into the Warriors' ball movement system has always been a challenge for him. The trade, however, isn't simple. Malik Monk is valued at around $19 million per year. Kuminga, to make the trade viable, would need to sign a contract worth around $23 to $25 million annually, and it's still unclear whether that will happen. To balance the salaries, the only realistic solution would be to add Buddy Hield to the package. Hield, by the way, is a significant figure in the Warriors' locker room, a veteran beloved by Steph, Draymond, and other team leaders. Losing him would sting, but sometimes sacrifices are needed for fit and roster depth. If this deal goes through, the Warriors would land Monk as an offensive weapon while maintaining an experienced core with room for adjustments. The trade would also open up valuable salary cap space that could be wisely used to pursue specific names in free agency. And that's where the second part of this equation comes in, Damian Lillard. Yes, he was waived by the Bucks, who chose to stretch his contract to ease their cap burden. Still, Milwaukee will continue paying Lillard $22.5 million per season for the next 5 years. A high figure, but it now allows him to become a free agent available to sign with any NBA team. It didn't take long for some of the league's top franchises to start making moves. The Lakers, Celtics, and of course the Warriors entered the race. But there's a detail few are talking about. Lillard suffered a severe Achilles tendon injury. There's a real chance he won't play next season. Still, the interest around him is massive. Why are teams so interested then? The answer lies in the market opportunity. Lillard will continue receiving payments from the Bucks, meaning he can accept a much smaller contract with a new team. We're talking something symbolic, perhaps a minimum contract or a veteran exception. This opens the door for teams like Golden State to sign him without sacrificing valuable assets. Just imagine Lillard wearing a Warriors jersey, alongside Curry, Draymond, and company. It would be a return to his roots. After all, he's from Oakland, grew up there, knows the environment, the culture, and the people. Plus, he could rehab his injury with one of the best medical departments in the league, led by Rick Celebrini. Even if the recovery takes the whole season, he'd be preparing in the ideal setting to come back strong. If he signed for 1 year, Lillard would have the chance to recover, integrate into a competitive roster, and perhaps return in the playoffs to make an impact. If he signed for 2 years, with a player option on the second, he could establish a new phase of his career in a team ready to contend. But none of this will happen until the Kuminga puzzle is solved. It's like a domino effect. Until the Warriors decide what to do with Kuminga, they won't have clarity about their cap space, salaries, and priorities. The Lillard movement is stalled, frozen, waiting for that first piece of the puzzle to fall into place. That's why the next hours or days will be crucial. Free agency is already drying up. Many key names have already signed, and the Warriors can't afford to wait forever. Either they define Kuminga's future now, or they risk ending the offseason with limited options. Speaking of options, if the trade with Sacramento happens and Monk joins Golden State, there's still room for smart moves. The mid-level exception for non-tax-paying teams could be used. Maybe with it, they could bring in someone like Al Horford, experienced, strong defensively, and a locker room leader. But Horford will be expensive. The veteran big man market is inflated. Brook Lopez, for instance, got $9 million. Looney earns $8 million. Horford, despite his age, might demand around $10 million per season. If that happens, the Warriors would still have the biannual exception to spend on another impactful name. Or they could use the trade exception on players like Georges Niang, who would add long-range shooting off the bench. The $2.2 million trade exception isn't much, but combined with second-round picks or minimum contracts, it could bring in a useful piece. Everything depends on resolving Kuminga's future. The most realistic scenario today is a deal with the Kings involving Monk and possibly Buddy Hield. The package may not be the flashiest in terms of star power, but in terms of immediate impact and tactical fit, it could be the most logical. Other options, like the Heat or the Bulls, are losing steam by the day. The Chicago Bulls, for example, just brought in Isaac Okoro and drafted Noah Asen, two wings who occupy the same positional area as Kuminga. Hard to imagine they'll strongly pursue him now. As for the Heat, although they're an aggressive and well-managed franchise, they don't have many strong assets to offer. A trade involving Kyle Anderson and Jaime Jaquez Jr. isn't exciting. They're decent players, but not enough to justify giving up Kuminga and restructuring the rotation. For all these reasons, Sacramento seems like the most sensible move. Malik Monk is an immediate impact player. He may not be a superstar, but he can give the team something it lacks: offensive spark off the bench. And if the cost is only Kuminga and Hield, it's a reasonable move. The possibility of trading Kuminga for Malik Monk might divide the fan base, but there's one fact that cannot be ignored. The Warriors need immediate offensive production. They are no longer in a phase of slowly developing young prospects. The era of Steph, Draymond, and possibly Wiggins is nearing its end. The time to win is now. And Kuminga, despite all his athletic ability, has yet to prove he's a reliable piece in that kind of scenario. The 2024 playoffs made that clear. When games get tight, defenses step up, and the room for improvisation disappears. What matters most is quick decision-making, game awareness, and consistency in shooting. These are all things that Kuminga has not consistently demonstrated. And while he has put up good numbers in certain games, those moments have been isolated. Monk, on the other hand, has already proven in multiple contexts that he can be an offensive spark, especially coming off the bench. Building a competitive roster requires exactly that: knowing what you need and knowing what you're willing to give up. Maybe Kuminga becomes a star elsewhere. Maybe he breaks out in Sacramento, or even in Miami. But Golden State can't afford to live on hope. They need impact now, immediate fit. There's no time to wait for raw talent to mature in the chaos of an increasingly brutal Western Conference. There's also an interesting tactical layer to this potential trade. Malik Monk is versatile. He can play alongside Curry, lead the second unit, act as a pure shooting guard, or even run the offense in a pinch. He gives the coach a broader set of options, something Kuminga simply doesn't offer. And if the trade also involves Buddy Hield, that opens up even more flexibility, both on the court and financially. Speaking of finances, that part is being overlooked by many analysts. The Warriors are in a delicate position regarding the salary cap and the new punitive rules for teams that exceed the limit. If they don't make moves now, they'll be stuck, with no room to invest in depth or strategic adjustments during the season. Offloading Hield's contract, even symbolically, creates an important window to operate better in free agency and at the trade deadline. So if Kuminga goes and Monk arrives, the Warriors wouldn't just be gaining a more ready player, they'd also gain breathing room to target other names. And that's where the name that still haunts the entire NBA comes in, Damian Lillard. If there's any chance to land Dame at a reduced cost, it only becomes real if there's cap space. That's why resolving the Kuminga situation is urgent. All the moves are interconnected. It's a game of financial and tactical chess. Solving one piece unlocks another. And Lillard, even while injured, is a heavy piece on that board. The question hanging in the air is it worth investing in a 34-year-old injured player who might not even play in 2025? For many, the answer would be no. But for those who know the Warriors' journey, recent history says otherwise. They've always bet on talent. They've always valued players with a winning mindset, championship hunger, and a legacy with the ball in their hands. Lillard, even without stepping on the court this season, embodies all of that. A leader, a player who might not be in peak physical condition, but who can still change the course of a season with his presence, his voice, and, once he returns, his shooting. And let's not forget, he's from the Bay. Raised in Oakland, he's always been vocal about his admiration for the Warriors. The cultural fit is instant. Picture the scene. February 2026, playoffs approaching. Curry playing at a high level, Monk lighting up the bench, Wiggins anchoring the defense, Draymond orchestrating the backline. And then, after months of recovery, Damian Lillard steps back on the court. A luxury reinforcement. Dangerous, respected, hungry to prove he still has fire left. But again, that only becomes possible if the equation is unlocked now. Delay could be fatal. The window is closing. Other teams are circling. Boston, for example, has already contacted Lillard's representatives. So have the Lakers. And even if Lillard hasn't publicly expressed a desire to play elsewhere, time is working against the Warriors. That's why Mike Dunleavy Jr. needs to act. Waiting until August isn't an option. The move needs to be quick, it needs to be precise, and it needs to be bold. It might not be the most popular trade. Many fans might be upset to see Kuminga leave without having broken out. But basketball is made of cycles, and Kuminga's cycle in Golden State, like it or not, seems to be nearing its end. That doesn't mean he lacks value. On the contrary, it's precisely his value, his potential, youth, and athletic explosion that could bring back a piece that better fits what the Warriors want to be now. Malik Monk is an underrated name, but those who follow closely know the kind of impact he can have. And if we add to that the possible arrival of Lillard later in the season, the whole picture changes. The Warriors would no longer be a team trying to survive with what they have. They'd return to being a team that commands respect, plays on the front foot, and has depth, bench production, and experience. It might not yet be enough to scare the Denver Nuggets or the Minnesota Timberwolves, but it's a start. And with the right creativity in using exceptions, trades, and minimum contracts, it's possible to shape a roster with enough fuel for one more playoff run. Time is ticking, and every second without a clear decision weighs like a brick on the shoulders of a franchise that has always thrived on clarity and conviction. What we're seeing now is a moment of deep transition, and this kind of transition demands something rare, decisive action with conviction. The Warriors can't afford to hesitate. The market waits for no one. While Golden State evaluates its risks, other teams are gearing up, strengthening themselves, and occupying spaces that once belonged to the Bay Area squad. And as much as fans want to believe in the miracle of stability, the truth is that this team needs change. And to change, something must be let go. Kuminga represents what the Warriors tried to build as the future at home. But that project failed. Not entirely, but it failed in the cruelest sense of sports. It didn't fit the present. Meanwhile, Monk represents the opposite. He's not the future, but he is the present. An immediate, useful presence with measurable impact. Monk's arrival doesn't close any doors. On the contrary, it opens them. It opens a lane to reorganize the secondary offense. It provides a release valve for when Curry is off the floor. It frees Steph to play more off the ball, which we know boosts his efficiency. It relieves Draymond of some playmaking pressure, and most importantly, it brings back the Warriors' ability to scare teams offensively, something they've lost over the past 2 years. Even if Monk isn't an elite defender, the Warriors' collective system has always masked that kind of deficiency well. The team's tactical culture is built on help, rotation, and intensity. You don't need 5 spectacular defenders on the court. You just need 2 smart ones, solid collective effort, and above all, offensive production on the other end to balance things out. Now, imagine Monk checking in and out of the game alongside a major reinforcement returning from injury, Damian Lillard. Yes, it's still a possibility, but each piece seems to fit better as the story unfolds. Lillard might not be the most heavily used player during the season, but his mere presence would shift the internal locker room dynamic. He brings confidence. He brings focus. He brings respect. And there's more. There's a mystique to it. Lillard was always seen as overly loyal to the Portland Trail Blazers. He spent years fighting for relevance on a team that rarely gave him a true structure to compete at the highest level. When he finally left, the road was bumpy. He passed through Miami, landed in Milwaukee, and the promise of title contention unraveled before his eyes. His exit now feels more like a liberation than a fall. He wants a fresh start. And wouldn't it be poetic if that restart happened exactly where everything began? Oakland, Bay Area, the same streets that shaped his character and determination. The narrative is already written. The Warriors, even in a downturn, still have a name. They still have culture. They still have Steph. And if there's any place that could restore Lillard's confidence, it's there. His rehabilitation would be overseen by one of the league's top medical staffs. The locker room, full of veterans, would shield him from premature pressure. And at the end of the season, when everything's on the line, he would emerge, like a silent lightning bolt, ready to decide the game. If Lillard accepts a minimum deal with a player option for the second year, Golden State will have made the smartest move of the offseason. And ironically, it all starts with a trade for Malik Monk, a deal that might seem modest now, but carries within it the domino effect that changes everything. Of course, there's risk. Lillard may never return to form. Kuminga could break out in Sacramento. Monk might not fit as expected. But high-level sports are, by nature, risky. And the Warriors have always been better when they've acted with courage, not fear. Just remember the past, when they bet on Andre Iguodala as a key piece, when they invested in Sean Livingston, when they traded Monta Ellis to give space to Curry, when they brought in Kevin Durant despite public backlash. In every case, the team prioritized fit, impact, and culture. Monk may not seem revolutionary, but he's symbolic. He marks the end of a quiet rebuild attempt with unpolished youth. He represents the acceptance that the best path to the future is to focus on the present. With him, and possibly with Lillard, the Warriors start looking up again. They start dreaming again. And that alone is enough to reignite the flame. There are still moves to be made. The smart use of exceptions can turn a good roster into a deep one. With the mid-level exception, there are names on the market who could still contribute. Experienced players with strong game IQ willing to accept rotation roles. Georges Niang, for instance, could still be acquired via trade using the exception. His reliable three-point shot would add even more spacing to the team. Al Horford, despite his age, still provides consistent minutes. His defensive positioning, screen reading, and veteran presence in the locker room would be valuable assets. If he's open to something around $10 million per year, the Warriors could bring him in as a safety piece, especially in playoff series against dominant bigs like Jokic. With Monk, Horford, and eventually Lillard, the Warriors would be holding a nearly complete structure. A multifunctional roster, capable of pushing the pace when needed, but also slowing down and executing in the half-court, capable of switching defensively across most positions, and most importantly, scoring in bunches with multiple shot creators. The offseason is far from over, but if Dunleavy makes the right moves in the next 72 hours, everything could change. And maybe, for the first time since 2022, the Warriors won't enter a season just to see what happens. They'll enter to compete, to bother, to scare. And if all that happens, it will have started with something that, to many, seemed small. the decision to move on, the courage to say, "Thank you, Kuminga," and take a different path. The NBA landscape is constantly changing, and recent rumors suggest that the Golden State Warriors might be about to make a surprising move in the market. The name circulating behind the scenes is that of Kai Sotto, the talented Filipino center who has been gaining attention for his versatile game and enormous potential. If this move actually happens, it could mean not only a technical boost for the Warriors, but also a massive cultural impact for the franchise and for the NBA as a whole. The potential arrival of Kai Sotto to the Golden State Warriors carries a special weight. The team is known for its ability to develop talent and its modern game philosophy based on ball movement and floor spacing. Kai, with his impressive height of 7.2 and a skill set that goes beyond the conventional for centers, could fit perfectly into this system. But what really stands out is not just the technical aspect, but the story this signing could tell. Kai Sotto is more than just a promising young talent. He represents an entire country passionate about basketball. The Philippines is known for its intense basketball culture, and Kai's rise to the global stage symbolizes the dream of many young athletes from the country. His journey is marked by challenges and achievements, from his early departure from the Philippines in search of international opportunities to his performance in competitive leagues like Australia's NBL and Japan's B-League. Kai Sotto's journey through professional basketball hasn't been simple. He had to give up the comfort of home to seek growth in foreign leagues, facing physical and tactical challenges that helped shape him as a player. In Australia, he proved that he could compete against high-level athletes, showing defensive potential and good game awareness. In Japan, he further refined his skills, developing a reliable mid-range shot and proving he could be more than just a traditional rim protector. The question many Warriors fans are asking is, how would Kai Sotto fit into the team? The Warriors have a recent history of struggling to find a dominant presence in the paint. With a playing style focused on shooting and fast transitions, the team often lacks a center who can provide both rim protection and offensive impact near the basket. Kai Sotto could be exactly the missing piece. His defensive game is one of the main attractions. With an impressive wingspan, he has the ability to block shots and contest finishes in the paint, something essential for any team looking for defensive solidity. Additionally, his presence on the boards could help the Warriors improve one of their weak points, securing second-chance opportunities on offense and limiting opponents to just one possession per play. But Kai Sotto is not just a defensive player. Unlike many traditional centers, he has an interesting mobility for someone his size. His ability to move well without the ball and finish near the basket could add a new element to the Warriors' offense. And more than that, his mid-range shooting ability could create more spacing, allowing the team's stars more freedom to attack. Beyond the on-court impact, Kai Sotto's potential arrival at the Golden State Warriors would have enormous relevance off it. The NBA has been increasingly investing in its global expansion, and signing a standout Filipino player would be a strategic step to gain even more fans in Asia. The Bay Area, home to the Warriors, has one of the largest Filipino communities in the United States, which would make the connection between the team and this fan base even stronger. The rise of international players in the NBA is a growing trend. In recent years, we've seen athletes from different parts of the world becoming stars in the league. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic, and Luka Doncic are just a few examples of how basketball has truly become global. Kai Sotto could be the next to follow this path, and the Warriors have the perfect environment to help him develop his full potential. If this move actually happens, it won't just be about basketball. It will be a story of representation, of a young man carrying the hopes of an entire country and potentially opening doors for future generations of Filipino players. The impact of his presence on the Warriors would go far beyond the court, influencing fans, sponsors, and even the way the NBA expands into new markets. Kai Sotto's arrival to the Warriors could also represent a shift in how the team builds its roster for the future. With an experienced and consolidated core, the franchise needs to think about renewal and how to maintain its success in the years to come. Betting on a young talent like Kai could be a strategic move for both the present and the future. Now, it remains to be seen whether the Warriors will actually make this signing happen. Speculation indicates there is interest, but there are still many factors to consider. Is the team willing to take a chance on a young talent who still needs to prove himself in the NBA? And is Kai Sotto ready to make that leap and face the challenges of the world's most competitive league? What's certain is that if this signing happens, it will be a landmark moment for the NBA and for Filipino basketball. Kai Sotto has the opportunity to make history and show that players from any part of the world can dream big and reach the biggest stages of the sport. And if there's a team that knows how to turn talents into stars, it's the Golden State Warriors. And you, fan, what do you think of this possibility? Do you believe Kai Sotto could be the missing piece for the Warriors? So that's it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on everything about the Warriors. See you next time.